What's up, everyone? It's Mr. Honey with Sports Nutrition on day 5 of our distance learning, and it is now time. You guys have been talking about it. When we gonna cook? When are we gonna do a lab, Mr. Honey? When we going into the lab? Can we cook? Can we cook? Can we cook? Can we cook? And to that I say, as soon as we pass this unit. Yes, provided when we come back to school, we are gonna start going into the lab. And with that being said, we're going to start going over right now a lot of the kitchen basics and things of that nature, so that way when you do come back, we can go ahead and move into the lab. Now, we'll say this: in order to take part in cooking in labs when you do return, 2 things have to happen. First thing, you have to make an 85 on the test regarding our unit about the kitchen. All right? If you make anything lower, you will have to continue to retake. Second thing, you must maintain a 75 average in this class. So do those 2 things and you're golden. And since we're talking about the kitchen stuff, let's have class in the kitchen from Ratatouille. All right, y'all. So for today, we are going over just basic kitchen equipment. Now, you do have notes. However, I'm not going to be throwing up a PowerPoint behind me like I normally do. For most of this stuff, it's going to be easier for me to show you rather than tell you. And I'm going to also make some corny jokes along the way. But let's go ahead and get into it. So make sure you got your notes out, and then I'm just going to be reading. Pictures are going to come up on the screen, so that way you kind of have an idea of what the item is. But this is all about kitchen equipment. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing up we have is the blender, which is responsible for chopping, blending, and liquefying food. So you probably thought most about a blender whenever you think about making milkshakes, or maybe when making smoothies or things like that. They're super, super loud.
What? Drown them out!
So you have a blender. It can be small, it can be large. So next up on the list, you have what is the electric mixer, which is like the blender's older, kind of cooler brother, but at the same time doesn't have the ability to liquefy. Basically, you have the mixer, which is there to blend, beat, and whip food. Now, you can use the mixer for a lot of different things. For me growing up, I remember seeing my Mima use electric mixers oftentimes when making like cake batter and things of that nature, but the electric mixer is one of those appliances that we do use in the kitchen. So when talking about small appliances, you have your toaster, your rice cookers, and your steamers. These are also considered to be small appliances as well. So if you think like a toaster or a toaster oven, you know, and you think about a real oven, all right, a real oven is like an Air Force One sneaker. You know, it's big, it's chunky, it's huge, and you know, it can cook toast. You can cook toast in an oven easily as can be done. But if you think about a toaster, smaller appliance, it's more like a Nike Slide, because it's smaller, it's sleek, it's easier to use. You just slide the toast in there and it just pops up. Next on the list, we have saucepans, which are little pans that can hold 1/2 to 4 quarts in size and have 1 handle. So the easiest way to remember that is saucepans give you a hand. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll be here all week. So moving up in size from the saucepan, we actually have the pot, which is actually larger and then can hold anywhere from 5 to 30 quarts, and then actually has 2 handles. And I remember that with the rhyme, pots hold a lot. Next, you have skillets, which are used for frying and browning food. Not to be confused with the Rock Band skillet, which will melt your face off. Well, I guess if it melts your face off, it could probably fry and brown food too. But yes, skillets. So next, we're moving on to bakeware, and the first thing we're looking at is a loaf pan. A loaf pan is a deep and narrow pan used for baking bread. And one of the best ways that I can think about what a loaf pan looks like is, one, if it looks like bread could sit in there, or if it could hold a tiny corgi, that's a loaf pan. So next we have the cookie sheet, which is a flat rectangular pan used for baking cookies or biscuits. So next we have what is the cake pan, which is round or square and then can sometimes feature different characters. And now we've come to the muffin pan, which is a pan that contains 6 or 8 tinier pans that's used for like cupcakes and muffins. I've even seen someone make like meatloaf muffins before, and don't knock it till you try it. You know who uses a muffin pan?
The Muffin Man. The Muffin Man?
Finally, we have the roasting pan, which is a large pan that is used for large foods. So you'll often see this come out when people are, roasting the turkey and things like that. So now we're moving into mixing tools, and the first one we're going to talk about is the wire whisk. It is this utensil that has all these little wires, and it's basically used for stirring, beating, and whipping up things. Like, this is my cat, and this is my cat's whiskers. So next on the list we have the sifter, and what the sifter is, it's a little canister with a ring inside of it, and what it actually does is it grinds dry ingredients into smaller particles. You'll use a sifter a lot, like with flours and things like that. And the next item we have is an item that can scrape food from bowls, pans, or other containers. No thought went into naming this item that scrapes food from bowls, pans, or other containers. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the scraper. All right, and then on our last slide, we have cooking and baking tools. The first thing on the list is the turner. Wrong turner. The turner. Yes, the turner, which many of you probably know as a spatula, basically lifts and turns flat foods. And we all know who is awesome with the spatula, our buddy SpongeBob SquarePants. Up next you have tongs, and tongs are basically used for gripping and lifting bulky foods. And surprisingly enough, I actually have a pair of tongs right here. Alright, so this is what tongs look like, alright? And just a little pro tip, you need to get your tongs ready when you're ready to grip the food, and the best way to do it is give it a couple of test clicks first. Yep, those are good tongs. Up next we have the ladle. Ladle. Not to be confused with Patrick Starr's war cry. But the ladle is basically a small bowl with a long handle used for dipping. I actually have this nice little Nessie ladle that sits down in the little pot, so as it's cooking it looks like you got a Loch Ness monster just going around. Ladle. And then finally we have the rolling pin, which is used for rolling dough. And you know who needs a rolling pin, don't you? Jeff Bezos, because he's got to roll all that dough because he can't see because the money's in the way. All right, y'all, so that concludes the notes section for today. So if you go ahead and get those submitted, you can go ahead and you can find the crossword puzzle for today listed in the module for kitchen equipment. If you want, you can line it up in a Word document how you want and then type the letters in. But if that doesn't suit you, you can always print it off, write the letters in the boxes, and then take a picture and submit it through Canvas. And I will do a slow Ken Burns effect on the crossword puzzle so you guys kind of have an idea of what you're looking at as well.